Most of our sellers do make more money, but it can be incremental or it can be massive just because of the quantity that they're moving. I think what Prime Day really should be looked at and what we encourage is it's not just that 1 or 2 days of the event, but you should look at it holistically for the month. Alrighty, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this Prime Day prep webinar. We're talking about Amazon Prime Day 2024, which is quickly approaching. It is going to be in July. They've confirmed that much, but that's all we know. And so we are probably about 5-6 weeks out. So it's really time to start buckling down and planning. So those of you who joined before, you know me, Jessica Wright. I manage webinars here for AO2 Management. And then today I'm joined by John Cavendish from Seller Candy. John is in a different time zone and it is nighttime for him. So we are both going to be doing our best to bring you great information today. But John, I'll throw it over to you for some intros.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks for having us. And well, me personally, that's just me here. Yeah, John, I'm from Seller Candy. Seller Candy makes it so you never need to talk to seller support again. So if anyone here has ever had an issue with seller support, I'm sure it's not you. We are there to help you with that. We have over 40 ex-Amazon seller support agents we hire directly from Amazon who work to support our clients. And Jessica kindly invited me to here today. We were hanging out at Prosper Show, 3 months ago? Time passes so quickly, doesn't it?
It's so
Since
bizarre.
you're sick. And luckily you haven't been sick since Prosper Show, because Prosper Show 2 years ago is when I picked up COVID for the first time, because that was the COVID Central Prosper Show.
Yeah, I think a lot of us came back from that. I can think of probably 3 off the top of my head who came back with COVID from that show. So sorry, Prosper. I am a member of the advisory board for Prosper. It's not Prosper's fault. That was just what was happening in the world at that time.
Oh yeah, last 2 years, no COVID, and I went and hugged everyone.
Yep.
So in a not creepy way. So yeah, it was a great experience there, and yeah, great to have us on for talk about Prime Day. I wish we knew the date, because some of the stuff we're going to be talking about inventory projection, I mean, you got to be sending it in already. Pretty much if it's not in there today, it's the day you send it in.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and just to kind of actually kick that off, since you mentioned that, it's June 20th is I think the date this year for product must absolutely be there. And for those of you who ship into Amazon frequently, you know today's May 22nd. That is a month, and that's cutting it close. We usually say allow yourself 5 weeks. So if that's the deadline, we are right in that window. So that will, yeah, like John said, lots of very topical, timely things today without knowing the exact timing. We're going to do our best to give you the best advice to be successful with this stuff. So I'm sure everyone who has joined us today knows what Prime Day is. That's why you're here. But just to give a little bit of oversight, Prime Day is really the biggest shopping day of the year in e-commerce. And I know that sounds crazy to say, because in this industry, we all know Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the whole holiday selling period. Last year, Prime Day on Amazon was the single largest sales day in the history of Amazon. So, just that really puts things into perspective for how big this event is and how important it can be for sellers. One thing I think it's important to note this year, as in the past couple of years, in e-commerce in general, we've been talking about diversifying and not having everything just on Amazon. Prime Day is a great example of that as well. Prime Day is huge on Amazon, but over the last couple of years, Walmart's popped up with their own sales. Target has popped up with their own sales. Wayfair, you can do things on your own website now. So, we're talking about Amazon today, but think about this across your entire business model. There are opportunities both on and off of Amazon for you. But this is, I think, the 9th annual Prime Day sale. Prime Day was started for Amazon's 20th anniversary, which I think was 2015.
I think it was a couple of years later, but I could be totally wrong. I can't.
Yeah, so I know it was for their 20th anniversary. We know that part is right. And it's been, a few years now. This is not new anymore. And so we do have some standard practices, some things we can recommend, some things that have gone wrong in the past that we've learned from. So that's kind of a brief overview of Prime Day. John, anything to add to that before we start digging in?
I think you covered so much. It's like the hallmark holiday of of Amazon.
I think this was maybe when I did the podcast with you like a year and a half ago, whenever that was, that I was on John's podcast, which we'll need to make sure to link to before we leave here today. It was the first year Amazon was considering doing that second Prime Day in the fall.
Yeah.
And I was very skeptical. I did not love the idea, specifically because of like that Hallmark holiday, Prime Day in the summer works so well. It's been so great for sellers, but do we really need to add a second event? And obviously, that's not what we're here to talk about today, but they did it and it worked really well, and sellers have benefited from it. So I guess it was worth it. And I was wrong to be skeptical. So live
That's
and
just
learn.
interesting because I mean, like I live in Asia and they have the, 11/11 Singles Day, biggest sales day, biggest e-commerce day in the world. Alibaba and China does billions in revenue. And after that, they were like, well, 11/11 went so well. Let's do 12/12, 1/1, 2/2, 3/3. And they did it every single month. They had equivalent 11/11. It was crazy.
And were sales like was there actually an increase? Was it worthwhile for sellers to participate, or did it just kind of become redundant?
It became a gimmick after that point because everyone was waiting for the next one. It wasn't like once a year or twice a year. It was like I just buy on this day.
So if Amazon is listening to us, which they probably aren't, but if they are, July and October are good. Let's keep it at two. Let's make it, matter to sellers and to the consumers, because consumers aren't dumb. They like you just said, they don't get it becomes gimmicky and they know better, and then there's no incentive for them to actually go purchase.
Yeah. So if we were going on to some more technical parts of it, then I mean, we all have, I'm sure we have different viewpoints and different things because we've seen different brands perform in different ways. I mean, what are some of your experience about like pricing strategy for Prime Day? Do you
So
believe
I
in doing any changes?
Yeah, it really depends on the brand. I know to get some of those massive deals and be featured in a big way, you have to do the discounts. But I don't think to have a successful Prime Day, you have to discount heavily. People are just shopping. And if they're not, especially if they're new to your brand, they're not necessarily familiar with what your pricing should be. And so just because you landed before them on this day, they see your product for the first time and they start adding things to cart. And so, yeah, personally, I do think that discounts and sales and promotions can and should be a part of the promotion for the event, but it doesn't have to be. You can still have some success and just take advantage of the additional shoppers and get some extra sales just because people are shopping on that day.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. And you're also basically riding on the coattails of your competitors who are advertising because, I don't know about you, but when I want to buy something, I see the offer, I'll go, oh, well, cool. How does that compare to the competition? If it's not priced that differently, maybe now I'm just being exposed to a new category or something that takes me to that product.
Yeah, and I mean, if you see, like you said, if you go and you see that this product is being advertised, but then you look at the competitors, and now my product is actually the one that has the better reviews or the better images or whatever it might be, I'm going to win that sale just because somebody else dropped their price and spent money on, sponsored product advertising doesn't mean that they're going to close the sale. So that's a really good point.
Mm. So, I mean, just to go into it, like Seller Candy, we don't do full service management. So, we see sales, we help people with all the issues when things go down on Prime Day. We help them when they need to solve things, really, really quickly, especially if they're ongoing clients. But we don't, help them analyze their P&L afterwards. And I know that AO2 does go into some of that. And I'd be super interested in any insights you can share of do people actually make more money on Prime Day when, say, they triple their volume, but they've done discounts, they push things, they spent money on ads? Like, how's that usually play out for some of your clients that you've seen?
So I'd say across the board, most of our brands, most of our sellers do make more money, but it can be incremental. It can be, super, super small additional margins, or it can be massive just because of the quantity that they're moving. I think what Prime Day really, the way it should be looked at and what we encourage is it's not just that 1 or 2 days of the event, but you should look at it holistically for the month. What is the kind of lead in spend as you're trying to kind of build some attention and get some traction to your listings, and then what actually happens on the couple of event days, and then what's the lead out. because if you're doing it right, then you're getting a lot of post Prime Day attention as well. I think that there's like some, of course, I've looked at stats over the years and I've looked at stats recently, but it's something like over 60% of people who see your product on Prime Day or even purchase your product on Prime Day are going to come back and purchase from you again, whether they pulled the trigger on the event or not. But a lot of those people will say that they're willing to buy your product at full price after the event, even if they got a great deal on Prime Day, because if that was the introduction to your brand and they tried it out for a great deal and they loved it, they're committed to the brand and they're going to keep buying it at full price. So it really should be looked at. This is a really long answer for
Hmm.
your
Oh,
quick
that's a great
question.
answer. I like it.
It
Please
should really
continue.
be looked at holistically, of that full month or maybe even more of what you invested up front to get those results on the back end. It's great if you have a stellar Prime Day. It's great if you do 3 months of sales in 2 days on Amazon,
Hmm.
but you're doing it wrong if you then don't figure out how to capitalize on that and bring it through, carry it through your business day to day moving forward.
Hmm. Oh, that leads on so many questions, and I don't want to. I don't want to make you talk all the time.
Yeah, sorry. There's a
One follow-up question though. I mean, so what's your like top way to capitalize on that? Would it be to set, include something in a follow-up email, gray area? Would it be to retarget these people? What would be the way
Yeah,
to
it's a
do it?
super gray area, that email thing, and it's a real pain point for me now because I was such a big fan of Amazon's. Um, it's been so many different things, customer engagement manager, customer engagement mice over the years. It's one of my favorite tools they ever gave us. And so the fact that they took it away this year,
Mm,
and we can't retarget those customers with emails directly through Amazon anymore, that is a very sad day for me. I would love to recommend that as what to do, but no longer available to us. So that but the brand tailored promotions, the things you can do to reach to cart abandoners and new shoppers and that sort of thing. Post Prime Day, I think that cart abandoners option is going to be massive. And this is I think the first major event like this where we're really going to be able to see how brands are taking advantage of that and what the results from that will be.
I love it. And is there anything, so I mean, it's just me riffing off that, but I think there's anything
Love
that
it.
people, if
Keep
they're
going.
listing to encourage add to cart, if you're going to do that, is there anything that we can do to like encourage add to carts up until, around that time?
Yeah, I mean, it's another kind of like gray or iffy area to me. Yes, you should be enhancing your listings right now and doing everything you can for conversions. Anytime you edit your listings, it's always risky. And so, like, as we're in a lead-in period to an event, right, you want to get your listings looking as great as you can, but also you want to be sure that you're not putting your listings at risk for suppressions or removal or anything. And so take all of this with a grain of salt, know your brand and your product and what your risks are right now. A couple of things we know for certain. John, you may have other opinions just from what you're seeing at your business, but working with our clients, a couple of the big things we're really seeing right now is Amazon's cracking down on obviously supplements. We all
Yeah.
know with the new regulations or the new rules Amazon has around certifications and
Yeah.
testing for supplements, that's something they're cracking down on heavily. You're probably caught up in that regardless of whether or not you make changes to your listings. But because they're targeting specific types of supplements, weight loss, sexual enhancement, that sort of thing, if you inadvertently put any language in your listings that gets it flagged as something like that when it wasn't previously and when it is not that product, then you could be putting yourself at risk. Right now, we've also seen that they are really cracking down on inconsistent variations. And so I think, this time of year, especially for something like Prime Day, that's a listing enhancement people want to do. They want to get a bunch of their things together on one page so one shopper can go through and add to cart multiple variations or, different color sizes, that sort of thing. But Amazon seems to be going through a period of review on variations.
Mm,
And they have not put out anything publicly, like with the supplements, it says that they're doing this, but we've seen it pop up enough with our clients. And we've seen enough other people in the industry talking about it that we know this is like a concentrated effort. So just be careful with your variations. Just like making changes to supplements, making any changes to your families could result in them being on the radar. But we've seen plenty of listings that the sellers haven't been making changes to the listings. Amazon is just looking at variations right now. So you've had a family that's been up for 5 years, everything's gone great for 5 years, and suddenly they're breaking it apart and telling you it's not within the variation policy.
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen that as well. And I mean, that's a big thing that Seller Candy does is, creating flat files and actually forcing things through as much as possible. If Amazon's giving us some kind of policy warning, then of course we stay well away from that. But yeah, I mean, whatever Amazon tells you, unless they're sending you a legal letter, their wording is super strong. And what they actually want to follow through is never that strong.
Yeah.
So we're an Amazon agency partner now. And they say us to us actually, if we see any wording which is overbearing, raise it to them. Because there's so many templates in the back end that have been created in Amazon's back end, which nobody's reviewed in years. And they know that they're a little bit threatening or aggressive. And they want to sort that out. So there are some really good people on Amazon who do want to stop it from sending out these crazy messages all the time.
Yeah, and we've segued a bit, but I want to comment on that because
Yeah.
this was a topic that came up last year at Amazon Accelerate, and we're getting close to Amazon Accelerate again. And I'm hoping we're going to see a lot of the feedback that's come out of the things like you're talking about, where agency partners and even sellers were able to give feedback because they are committed to making changes to how support
Mm,
interacts with the sellers, or in this case, how support interacts with seller candy so that you as a seller don't have to. They want to make that a better experience. And I know that sounds like empty promises to say because all of us have had such bad experiences with seller support, but it's just such a massive, massive company. Imagine the number of sellers and the number of cases they see every day and how quickly the support agents have to go through these things. They are just copy pasting templates. So the support agents are doing the best with what they have. And this is something I always encourage sellers to do is to give that feedback and let Amazon know when the support you got did not match, when the information you got seemed too harsh or made it seem like you were going to lose your selling privileges tomorrow when it was really
mm.
not that intense. Because if we give that feedback, they can make these changes, they can streamline the processes, we will get to the right answers more quickly, even if that's not the case today.
100%. And yeah, even in addition to what you're saying, they are actually following templates because that's their KPI.
Yep.
Like Amazon implemented a system in 2019, 2020 called Workflow, and the agents now are trained to use the system rather than trained to solve the issue. So where do they go? Where did they go through? Did they copy and paste it right? Obviously, they still need to be the right answers, but they're graded in 8 minutes to solve a ticket, and it must be copy and pasted from somewhere. So you're up against that. So you just need to keep re-raising, creating new tickets, and then pushing in the right direction, saying, I've done this, in case the person's not gone through your other tickets, because they only get 8 minutes. They're not going to go through your previous tickets. And at least you're knocking things off when you re-raise it over and over again, telling you, we've tried this, we've tried this.
Yeah, absolutely. Or, just work with seller candy and then you don't have to do that at all. It's
Or
always an
just work
option.
with Seller Candy if you want to. Yeah. But no, we're here to help and serve. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to Seller Candy and we'll actually help you, point you in the right direction of us or of another amazing partner, such as AO2.
We're a little bit more full service and we do
Mm.
help, as I mentioned earlier, with that omni-channel stuff. So again, like we're here talking about Amazon, but all of this, in 2024, Amazon is a piece of the bigger puzzle.
Yeah.
So a lot of people do utilize Amazon for that like brand name recognition, for getting your brand image out there, for getting everything consistent. And then from there, all of those other channels kind of feed off of what you've done on Amazon. And it's really kind of the way to do it because if you can get your stuff up compliant with Amazon, you're basically hitting all of the requirements. And then you're pretty safe wherever else you take the information. Um, you won't be violating any kind of rules or you'll be in compliance with, the safety testing and all of those things because of having to jump through all those hoops with Amazon.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, that's also why you can reach out to Seller Candy if you get stuck, for example, with your safety certificates or things like that, because that's at a point when Amazon sometimes just rejects things over and over again for no good reason,
Yeah.
which is the biggest pain in the ass. Um,
So frustrating.
so we talked a little bit about listing optimization, a bit about inventory management, a little bit about pricing. What about marketing, like promos? What's your view on
Oh,
enrolling for Prime Day deals, PPC beforehand? Like, how do you see that?
so like this is the biggest topic I think surrounding Prime Day, and
Mm.
I will try my best. But those of you who are watching today, please feel free to chime in the Q&A or in the chat if we are not answering the questions that you're looking for, because there's so much to cover on each of these topics, and especially in the promotions. I could probably go on for a full hour about it. But I think the biggest thing to note is for Prime Day deals, like lightning deals, deal of the day, that deadline has passed. So US and worldwide, because we haven't talked about that too much, but Prime Day is not specific to the US. I think a
I mean,
lot of
there's
people,
countries outside the US.
yeah, I know, right? Like you're not just out there in space somewhere. Yeah, other things exist outside of Amazon.com. Some of you may be selling there. Prime Day exists on those channels as well.
Mm.
But for every available country that is supporting Prime Day, the promotion, the deals window has closed. So that was earlier this month, May 3rd or 4th, I think, was the
Mm.
last day to submit those deals. I will say that some brands, as recently as like a week and a half ago, they had gone into their brand dashboards and they did see some new deals popped up. So I encourage everyone to keep checking that out if you have inventory. If you already have the inventory at Amazon to support a deal, and if you have, the margins to support the types of discounts they'll be looking for, then keep checking your deals dashboard because sometimes those do reopen. Another brand maybe committed to a deal and couldn't get their inventory in, or their seller rating has dropped and they're no longer eligible. There's a number of reasons why additional deals could open up, but officially that window's closed. So if you didn't opt in, that's not going to be a major part of your Prime Day strategy for
Mm.
promotions. But like John mentioned, there's, sponsored ads, there's Amazon Posts, there's Amazon Live. Last year on Prime Day, I think there were 100 million viewers of Amazon Live videos. And that was really the first
That's a
Prime
cool
Day
stat.
where we saw that be a big part of, the day. So I can only
Mm.
imagine this year there's going to be even more than that. So Amazon Live on the day of the event can be a really, really good tool to use. Social media promotions, where you can be a little bit more flexible because on Amazon, you can't necessarily, like when we talked about listing enhancements and I kind of didn't go deep into what you can actually do. I told you more about how to be careful to not get in
Mm.
trouble when you're doing your listing enhancements. But one thing you can't do is put any verbiage about Prime Day in
Yeah.
your listing for the event, right? But if you do a social media promotion, you can talk about all of that off Amazon and drive traffic to your listings. And you can use promos on Amazon, promos and coupons you can use in your social media to promote things and drive traffic back to Amazon. And if you're doing that, then you can use Amazon attribution, you can get the brand referral bonus and have all of these extra benefits and metrics to look at for that traffic that you drove to Amazon if you are a buy with Prime user. So if you utilize the buy with Prime button on your own website outside of Amazon and fulfill with your Amazon inventory, you should also have received an email, or hopefully you did. I don't know if it's everyone, but I think they did this last year, and I know they've expanded that this year. Opportunities for you to promote the deals you'll be running on your own website using that Buy with Prime button on
Mm.
Amazon in app on the desktop. So
That's very cool. I
there's
didn't know that.
even, yeah, it's I think this is the second year they're doing it, and I think much more widespread than last year because it went well, but it's really kind of cool the opportunities Amazon is giving now for brands who are selling on Amazon and other places, but even who aren't selling on Amazon, which is something a whole different topic that we're not talking about yet. But just to give a teaser on that, they really are leaning into non-endemic brands this year on the Amazon ad side of things. So non-endemic would be those brands that are not yet selling on Amazon, but want to advertise on Amazon.
Mm. A much bigger thing a few
For
years ago, wasn't it? And now it's coming back.
Yeah, and in a big way. I mean, they're really kind of focused on this as their one of their key like acquisition areas for this year. So like
Mm.
a Ford like car manufacturer, Ford could is not selling trucks on Amazon, but they can run sponsored ads that show up in the search results. Not just things on video, not just DSP, but a sponsored ad that can show up in the search results for a Ford truck that somebody's going to click and go off Amazon to go purchase from the website, from a dealership, whatever it might be. That's probably a bad example because
No,
most
I
people,
like that one. No, because then Amazon can retarget you for the rest of time for accessories for your Ford truck,
that
which you
is
probably
true
didn't buy.
also. Yes. I was just thinking probably most people aren't buying their Ford truck from a website and never going to see it in person. But I
I
think
also hear in the US, everyone buys on payment, and it's the most crazy system in the world. But we can go into that another time.
yes, yeah. So then there's all of these little segues we can go into, but I think this is one of the cool things for Prime Day this year is you may be a little late to get into it, but it's something we should all be watching. And maybe for that fall Prime event or, next year, if you're not somebody, if you're joining us today and you're just starting to learn about Amazon and your brand is not being sold yet on Amazon, there's still opportunity for you to join in this Prime Day opportunity and take advantage of all of those extra consumers on the site. Even if your products are not sold on Amazon, you can take advantage of those sponsored ads, drive traffic to your own website, have people check out just because there's that many more viewers on the site during that time period. You can still be a part of Prime Day and not be an FBA seller and not be, even a selling partner of Amazon's at all.
Mm. That's really cool. And like, I also think, I'm a big fan of guerrilla marketing and, putting effort over spending, especially when you're testing things and especially when it becomes expensive. And when you were sharing about socials, I mean, I know most brands now at least have a basic social media presence because you should, even if you're just starting up. And most people aren't taking advantage of Amazon posts that I see. And the really cool thing you can do if you're willing to put in some time is just to repurpose all of your social media into Amazon posts. So there's going to be so much more traffic coming in. It's free marketing for you basically to just move everything across. And that's something you can easily outsource to a virtual assistant if you have one, or you'll do yourself if you want to put time in. It's so much more traffic, as you said, that whatever effort you can do to personally drive traffic, I'd be willing to do that on a day which I can make a load more money.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you mentioned posts because it's one that I talk about all the time, and I think people get sick of me championing
I
posts.
didn't
But
know that.
like, yes, I love it so much, and it's taken so long for posts to catch on. And now people are finally starting to talk about them a little bit more. And, it is that kind of social media vibe, but on Amazon, you can use Prime
Mm,
deal, like all kind of like that special messaging in posts. And if people are followers of your brand, that post may show up to them like, as soon as they open their Amazon app, it could be right there. So, utilizing the post and making sure you have that follow button on your store and making sure you're getting those followers, it's amazing where those posts can actually show up on the app, on your homepage, on desktop, on competitor pages. When people are shopping on Amazon, your post could show up on those competitor pages. So it really is a no-brainer. And even if you do it yourself, even if you don't have that assistant to go in and do it for you, I think that's something that's so worth the effort.
great. Yeah. So if it's one takeaway from this is do post for Prime Day, especially if you already have social media presence. You're giving up on money by not spending 30 minutes doing that at some point before Prime Day.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you're already doing social media off Amazon, you really can just replicate, reuse a lot of that content to get your post done even more quickly.
Nice. Yeah. And I mean, nah, I don't want to go down these too many segues. But I'm
I
just
do, I
going,
will say for all of you watching, I do have a plan to launch a poll
mm,
as we kind of wrap up some of this stuff. If we have time, to ask you if there's something else you want us to dive deeper into that we skimmed over. So I think we can keep going on all of these rabbit holes we're going down because we will give people an opportunity to like pull us back in towards the end if we need to.
cool. So do you want to do the topics to cover poll? I can launch that one if you want.
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, I've launched a poll. I've never done one before, but you've already got all these prep polls in your webinar. And since I'm a host, I can see.
Yes. Right. So yeah, I guess let's talk a little bit more about pricing strategy because we did open with that one, but it was a pretty quick overview of just my personal opinion. But yeah, do we have any specific strategies to implement or specific kind of things to avoid even? I think one of
Mm,
the biggest things to avoid right now, be careful with your pricing. Keep it a little bit higher, do what you need to ensure that when you launch a sale, if you're going to go that route, or a promo or anything for the actual event, that Amazon will accept the pricing that you want to offer for the promotion, and that they will promote it with strike through, or show it in search. Because right now, if you're consistently running sales and deals right now, that makes the offer for Prime Day much less um, relevant, and it makes it, less of a deal, and Amazon may not promote it. You may not get the strike through pricing or anything that makes it um, show up to consumers.
And what's your view on increasing pricing? So there used to be a big thing a couple of years ago. Everyone was, but we're not boasting, but talking about how they can increase their pricing and increase volume. How have you seen many kind of examples of that? Success stories, not so success stories.
I think you could get away with it more in past years. I think Amazon does a better job now of kind of looking at this like rolling 90 days. And so they're not as easily tricked as they used to be, of if you increase your price last minute, or you enter a list price that's much higher and then enter
Mm.
your sale price that's lower, and you try and, pretend that, oh, my list price is this, so if I sell it for this price, it's a great
That
deal.
was back in the day.
Yeah, they look at that 90-day total and they can tell if it really is or isn't. And so if you do that, not only do you risk them not showing your promotion or deal for the event, but you actually risk losing your buy box or featured
Mm.
offer entirely, and then having to have sellers go through that extra step of, clicking to see all buying options. And we all know that that drastically reduces the add to carts, right? It's like 30% drop when that
Mm.
featured offer isn't there, because most consumers don't understand what's happening. They don't
Yeah.
read what that button says. They just think, oh, I can't buy this item, and they move on to something else. So I think that's really important. If you try and like trick the system and raise pricing now to get, to be able to make your deal look like it's a better deal later, you're actually risking losing, like essentially suppressing your offer completely for the event.
Mm. Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. Anything else on pricing strategy though? Like any strategic things? I mean, apart from running an offer, if you want to run the offer, having enough inventory to run the offer. Otherwise, you're shooting
I think
yourself in the foot.
I think that, and that's really important. Like, you can't necessarily just run your deal and forget it. It's just like a 2-day event. But if you're getting sales velocity and things are moving quickly, keep an eye on what's happening, right? And because we've talked about how important the post Prime Day can be, you don't necessarily just want to sell through all the inventory you have at Amazon during those 2 days and then be out for 2 weeks. So you need to keep an eye on what's happening throughout the event, and maybe make some decisions to, if you're running a 40% off deal partway through, change it to a 30% off deal, or, start raising your pricing to keep your product in stock. Because again, people are going to be shopping post Prime Day. They're going to have seen things that they liked, that are new to them, that they're willing to take a risk on. Even if it's not, rock bottom pricing, they're still going to have eyes on your product, and they're still going to consider buying it. And if you go out of stock immediately, or in the middle of the event or post event, and you've got all that extra traffic, then it's really wasted. So with your pricing strategy, I think just make sure that you do what you need to protect your inventory and keep it in stock, because people will still buy at the higher prices. That was part of something I said earlier. Amazon published those details last year after Prime Day. It was something crazy. 63% will repurchase, 39% will buy the product at the higher price than what they saw on Prime Day. So, keep that in mind. If 40% of the people are willing to pay a higher price for it, don't be scared to raise your price as the event is ongoing or after the event, to make sure you stay in stock. Because there's nothing worse than going out of stock for a period of time and losing all that momentum you built for your sales rank and all of that.
Mm, totally agreed. So there's so many AI tools out there. I'm sure everyone uses chat. Oh, tried Chat GPT, made it write poems. I don't know. I like asking it to write random things.
I had it write me a review of expired microwavable popcorn from
Mm,
the perspective of like a gourmet food magazine, and it was amazing.
wow. I
It
was I
was
was I was
the
thought you were going to say
conversation.
from the point of view of the popcorn. That'd be
Maybe I'll
really
try that
interesting.
next.
Yeah.
I had some expired microwavable popcorn. I wanted to know if it was okay for me to eat it. had a conversation with my brother, and this is where we went. But it was a fantastic review. So
Love it.
AI can be
And
used for all sorts of things.
AI is awesome. I'm a big fan of Zongaru's implementation of AI, at least to test things out and see if it can improve what you've got already. Their listing optimizer tool is super cool. It has ChatGPT integration, and basically you put in your listing and your top competitors. It pulls the listing, looks for all the keywords that they're ranking for, then reviews your listing and gives you a list of all the keywords that they are using, which you're not using. So basically scores you and says, do you want to continue, add these keywords? And then if you want it to, which is the a bit of I would definitely try it, see what comes out. You can press the button, it'll rewrite all your listing, including those keywords, basically change the sentences around. As Jessica said, if it does that, make sure you review for compliance issues. Everyone knows AI doesn't understand what's compliant and what's not. And it's hilarious sometimes how it wants to one up everyone else. So, for example, I was doing a website. This is just a little story to emphasize. I was doing website copy. I said, here are our three competitors. Please analyze them and create our website copy based on their copy. What it did is it just one upped them in everything. So they said that they'd done $1 billion of audits. It told us that we do $1 billion of audits a day. And I was like, all right, cool, that's amazing. But the claims you're making are not compliant with anything. Great.
Yeah, there's another one, and I think I shared some of the images. I wish I had them handy. I didn't even think about it for this one, um, of another tool, and I think it might have been Amazon's like homegrown tool
Mm,
for the new one they introduced like last month for listing enhancements, where there was no double check from the user. They just fed everything in, and the listing was like full of errors. Like, we can't list this because it goes against copyright guidelines. And it's a bullet point that's now been included in the listing because somebody just said, Amazon's AI tool, go enhance this listing for me. It came back with this information. They didn't review it. They just clicked the submit button and posted it live to their page. And there's a ton of those types of fails too. So super important. I probably said this before on other ones when we've talked about AI. It's only as smart as we make it.
mm,
And it takes all the information that we as users, I think there was definitely my numbers are wrong on this, but some article on ChatGPT where like the first year it was released, it could solve like basic math problems with like 90% accuracy. And then 6 months later, when you checked in, solving those same math problems, it was only like 74% accuracy. Like, we as users were somehow making it dumber. And
mm,
so it's just super important to remember that ChatGPT or any AI is relying on us. If you just say, make this thing for me, it's going to make that thing for you without any context. And the more information you give it, the more context you give it, the more you say, like, make our website better than theirs, but within these parameters, like, obviously we can't do a billion audits per day or whatever it is, the better results it's going to give you. So yeah, anything you're thinking of in terms of AI, in terms of tech to utilize for Prime Day, just make sure that you are giving it a final glance, that you're giving that human touch to make sure that it is actually what you want before you run with it.
100%. And if you haven't used it yet, make sure you've got the ChatGPT app on your phone and have a conversation with it. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever used for like ideating, creating plans, because you can have a whole conversation back and forth, and it's like natural language conversation, and ask it, can you summarize what we talked about? Can you create bullets? Can you do whatever? But what was
Sorry,
that?
I almost just broke my coffee mug.
Oh no.
It's good.
Yeah, so you have the two-way conversation, and then you can get it to process the data in any way you want. So what used to take, as long as you have the basic understanding, what used to take hours of writing, so creating a business plan or writing up your ideas, you can just have the conversation naturally and then say, can you just summarize this for me? And then you can just get it to edit from there, which
And when
is
you say have the conversation, are you using the actual voice prompt?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And okay, where it speaks back to you?
Um, yes.
Okay, I
So
haven't used that yet, so I'm very curious. So I'll have to download the app and get it on my phone and actually try it
yeah.
because
And the new one, which I don't have in my country yet, but it's the basic one. See, it kind of connects and talks to it, and you can say, "Hey, ChatGPT," and then you can have like a conversation with it, basically.
yeah, that's wild.
It's file, but
Provide a bit more context or detail about what you're referring to?
exactly. But you can, it's so good. And the new version that they've got on the OpenAI YouTube video that came out last week, it can sing, it can do all sorts of crazy stuff. My wife sent me a video of it having an argument with another chat GPT today. Like it's getting phenomenally good. So I'm really excited to see what happens there.
Yeah, so definitely I think, start leaning into that, start checking out the AI stuff because really in your business, and this is one, topic we didn't get into heavily, but like the business operations, the back end stuff that you need to be worrying about. We probably like entered into this kind of more in the context of like listing enhancements and that sort of thing,
Mm,
but AI can really be helping you on the back end of your business with operations and with simplifying, like John said, these tasks and streamlining things so that you can then go actually focus on the doing of the things that take your actual like mental capacity, because you've gotten to like the business plan for it through this super automated system.
Oh, operations. That sounds almost like you set me up for that one. So Seller Candy is an operational service, but if you are interested in getting your operations better and not doing everything yourself, there is a guide that we have you can download. It's sellercandy.com/seven steps, number seven, STEPS. And it's a guide for, your seven steps from being the 100% operator to the owner of your Amazon business. Because, everything's baby steps. You're not going to just walk like mic drop and walk away from your business one day. You have to start outsourcing the small stuff and doing your back end ops. So you can have some freedom, travel the world, live in the mountains
That's what
like
I'm
Jessica.
doing.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I love it. I recommend it to anyone if you can be out in the mountains, away from everything. Um, Obviously, it doesn't help you get over a cold any more quickly, but at least you have peace while you're doing it. I've been struggling with this cold for 8 days now.
Yeah.
Um,
Or in the middle of a city of 12 million people like me.
yeah, yeah. I mean, then you'll just constantly be picking up picking up more and more germs and actually, so you're probably better off because you are
In-
getting immunity to so much stuff because you're exposed to so many things.
exactly. Completely immune to everything now. I have every disease now. Cool. Is there anything else that we want to cover, Jessica?
I think that we probably hit on everything that we can cover in a big way. But as a reminder, if anybody has any last minute questions here, drop those into the Q&A and we can take a couple minutes here to answer them. I like to do like a kind of a final wrap up, usually of like what's your number one last minute tip takeaway.
Yeah, be prepared. Be awake, be working during Prime Day, um, and make sure you're continuously checking your listings, ranking, and any messages or alerts, notifications from Amazon. Because if anything goes down, you want to sort it immediately, and that's the best time to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a really great one. We talk about all this prep, but on the day of or the 2 days of, usually 2 days, that's when it matters most, right? Everything you've done to prepare can fall apart if you're not keeping an eye on what's going on, if one of your listings goes down or anything like that. So I think that's an excellent best tip. And I think for me, it's just really being prepared to um, analyze that post-event data and to do something with that. Don't sleep on taking all the information that you learned during Prime Day and utilizing that to enhance things moving forward, whether it's the feedback that you get from the influx of sales that you can use to, make changes to your listing or even make changes to your product, or utilizing those tools that Amazon gives us now for the brand tailored promotions to be able to send deals and feedback and things to those cart abandoners and all of those things. So yeah, we talked about the prep, which was the majority of this. John mentioned being prepared on the day of, and then I think just making sure you cover all the bases with that lead out, to make sure that you are taking advantage of that big lift you got. If you're doing all three of those things before, during, and after, that's the best way to have a successful Prime Day. All
Love it.
right. I think we will go ahead and wrap things up today. So thank you for joining us. John, thank you so much. You were a fantastic guest. Really, you kind of did the host role and kept everything going, which was fantastic given my mental capacity today. So I appreciate that so much. And
That
we're
was
really
great.
happy
Thank you
to
for
have
having
you.
me so much. And if you just allow me to plug Seller Candy very quickly,
Yes, please.
if anyone's interested. So, I mean, just anyone that's watched this and is interested in having an expert solve an issue. So, if they've got an issue that's driving them crazy right now, or if you like the idea of having an absolute expert solve all the stuff that's going on seller support, so you never need to talk to them again, you can head to sellercandy.com and click talk to an expert. And you can speak to one of our team to see if we're actually a good fit to serve you as a client. Or if you're not ready yet, head to that URL, which is in the notes, /7 steps, and download the guide so that whenever you're ready, you can come and say hello to us.
Fantastic. And I mean, obviously, we wouldn't have had John here today if we don't fully endorse Seller Candy, but I can say, having used it personally, it really is, I mean, anything you can think of that you want to, it's kind of like AI for your cases, right? You're just like, this is the thing I'm worried about. And then you just kind of push it off into Seller Candy land. And, next thing you know, it's resolved. You don't have to keep doing that back and forth with cases. So if this is an area that is a pain point for you, it's something I definitely highly recommend.
So also, if you're looking for anything like PPC or full service management,
Here we
talk to
are.
Jessica.
AO2. Get in touch. Full spectrum between John and I, we can help you out with everything you've got going on in your Amazon business, and then at AO2 as well, Walmart, Google, Facebook, Instagram. We've got you covered for e-commerce. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out. All right. With that said, I think we're ready to wrap up. Remember to grab all those links from the chat. We'll keep that open for a little bit, but John and I will drop off of here, and we appreciate your time today. We will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.